everybody. Welcome back to Daytime York Region. I'm so pleased to welcome back to the show Canadian author Janet Matthews. You, of course, may remember her from Chicken Soup for the Canadian Soul. But the great news is you've come out with so many books since that book launched in 2002, and you're working on an amazing one that captures the Canadian spirit.
That's it. Yeah.
And that's in 2017,
yes.
May. So Janet, tell us about this new concept and this new book and really what you're looking to capture in terms of the Canadian spirit.
Well, thanks for asking, Jacqueline, and for giving me the opportunity to share with your viewers. This is an exciting opportunity to get a story published.
It is.
So the new book is called Chicken Soup for the Soul, The Spirit of Canada, May 2017. And you know, most people don't realize, but that's our sesquicentennial, the 150th anniversary of Canadian Federation,
wow.
which is the point of this book, to launch just before Canada Day so that we can really have it'll help celebrate who we are as Canadians.
And the best part is when people think of Chicken Soup for the Soul, it's written by regular people like
right. We're collecting
like me.
We're collecting stories from ordinary Canadians like you and your neighbor and your family from all across the country, and we're looking for stories on a variety of different things that would help celebrate who we are as Canadians and our unique Canadian spirit. So, you know, first of all, we're looking for stories that are founded on what I call traditional chicken soup themes, like overcoming obstacles, living your dreams, love, kindness, family, making a difference in the world. So when you find one of those themes and then you have a topic that is quite Canadian, so maybe, for instance, one of our great Canadian heroes that inspired you, or maybe you have a local hero in your own community that's made a difference in your life or in the life of your community. Perhaps you had a community that had a bit of a disaster or a real challenge, and first responders showed up and something really dramatic happened that touched your heart and made a difference. Maybe you're in the military or someone in your family's in the military and they had a dramatic story to tell. And you know what I'm focusing on here is the dramatic story as opposed to an essay.
Oh, I see.
You know,
and there is a difference between
a really
those.
big difference. Now, we all learned how to write essays when we were in school, and an essay is when you write about something. A chicken soup story is a dramatic, standalone kind of piece of art that starts in a traditional storytelling fashion, if you think about Once Upon a Time. We don't want to have that introduction, but it starts with a bang, almost like the day I came home. You know, one day I came home from work, the phone was ringing, and when I answered it, my life changed forever. And you have characters in your story, and you have dialogue, and it's just a single stream of story that has a dramatic moment that's going to open the heart of the reader. So the reader is going to have some kind of emotional response, like goosebumps or tingles or chills or tears, or maybe they're just going to burst out into spontaneous laughter.
Oh, wow. And so that all of those different things you just mentioned make a well-rounded story.
They make what we call a Chicken Soup for the Soul story that's going to have a great chance of being included and be successful, yeah.
Well, how many submissions, how many can you accept to make the Canadian Soul
Well, we're looking
version?
for 101 stories.
Okay.
And so far I have read probably 300. I'm hoping to read more, like 500 or 600 before I'm finished.
Right.
I probably have maybe 40 or 50 stories so far from when we started. We're right in midstream on this book. There's lots of room for other great stories. And right now we're looking at a writer's deadline for May 31st, which is lots of time for someone to think about a story, read the story guidelines on the website, read the 3 sample stories, that's really important, and then go online and submit.
And it's that easy, really.
It really is, yeah. And if somebody, I always offer to help people. If someone's struggling with it and they're not sure how to do it, call me. I'm there. I work at my home office. I'm right here in Aurora. I produce this book right in Aurora. I don't bite. So, you know, call me and say, this is what I'm thinking, but I'm not really sure how to approach it. I'll help you.
And if you're not a great writer, I mean, some people tend to have an amazing story, but they might not be able to put it pen to paper.
That's it. Yeah.
So that's where you can kind of get the process started.
And I really love it when I find a story, a great story, but the person isn't necessarily, that writing isn't their thing. You know, they're a doctor, they're a lawyer, they're a homemaker, but they've got this great story. I can work with you and get it written.
So end of May is the submission deadline?
Yep.
Okay.
For this time around, yep.
So you still have time to submit your story, and you've been going through some of the submissions. Actually, you go through all of them.
I read every single thing that comes in.
What have you picked out about being Canadian? Is there kind of a common thread about being Canadian
There
that you've noticed?
is a theme, a kind of a consciousness that's starting to form for this book that's quite different than the first book. And, you know, the first book we had history and heritage and heroes in it, and heart, that's what I call it. We're still looking for the heroes for sure on this book. We want to keep the book a little more contemporary. So, again, local heroes or heroes you were inspired by. I've had some wonderful stories from people who've been touched by events in their family that might be because someone's in the military.
Right.
Or some of the recent things that have happened around the Canadian military in Canada. I got some great stories from people who've had really, like, what's more Canadian than having a sugaring off with maple syrup in the spring, right?
Oh, of course.
So I had one that sent me a story about going back to the sugar bush and doing a last sugaring off with her father. And all of the things that were around that. She remembered her childhood, so there was some nostalgia, but it was in the now. It was taking place now. And having that last experience with her dad before he passed.
Wow.
I think she got to do it one last time. So, I mean, maple syrup, you know?
You know what? It's Canadian. It's
Yeah.
emotional, brings
Yeah.
chills, and it's something that
Yeah.
everybody can relate to.
Yeah.
We will take a short break. We're going to keep you on for a couple more
okay,
minutes
thank
after
you.
this, and we can talk more about the submission process and again the whole goal behind this amazing new project.
Thank you.
To capture the Canadian
Great,
soul.
Jacqueline.
We'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. I'm still here with Canadian author Janet Matthews. She's also a York Region resident, which is lovely. And you've been involved in Chicken Soup for the Canadian Soul since 2002.
97
right?
I started.
97.
97, yeah.
Which
so
was
it's almost 20 years.
That's
Yeah.
that's a big part of your life.
Really big, yeah.
And you're really capturing what it means to be Canadian in so many different aspects.
Yes.
But this new one, Chicken Soup for the Canadian, or for the
Chicken Soup for the Soul, the Spirit of Canada.
Spirit of Canada.
Yeah.
It's focusing on a different type of Canadian.
There is a slightly different theme to it. It's there's a gentler theme to it and a very touching theme. Most of the stories that come in do end with, and it reminded me how grateful I am to be a Canadian. Or this experience that happened on the train, or when they were traveling in Europe and they met someone who reminded them how often they say, "I'm sorry," and the girl's saying, "I'm sorry," and they're laughing at her because, you know, she's saying, so she says, "Sorry, not sorry," you know, and
Oh,
at
my
the end she
goodness.
just came home and she said, you know, I'm not going to apologize ever for being a Canadian. I think that, you know, how we live is, you know, the greatest thing, or whatever. That kind of a theme. It could be traveling in Europe, you know, if you're did people still backpack in Europe? I don't know, with that Canadian flag on the
Right.
backpack and what that brings. You could have a story that happened in any part of Canada and kind of focuses on the environment that you're in. So maybe it happened on the East Coast, you know, in one of the coastal towns of Newfoundland, kind of thing. Or maybe it happened in the Rockies in Alberta. So tell the story, but let the environment present the story. And the story could be any theme that we're talking about, of overcoming obstacles, or maybe you're camping and ran into a bear, or, you know, that kind of thing, or you ran out of food and some other campers were generous and invited you to their campfire. You know, it could be anything that happens in your daily life that's touching and will touch the heart of, this is all about touching the heart of the reader. But show us the environment that it happened in, and let us feel that Canadian spirit coming through.
And Canada is such a large and vast country, so
Yeah.
geographically you can experience, you know, almost like a different world depending on what part of the country you're living in or where your experience happened. So is that important to capture as well?
I think so. And one of
Yeah.
the things that I'm really excited about is that I do have stories this time that are coming in from or about Aboriginal Canadians,
Wonderful.
which I was not able to get for the first book. For whatever reason, no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't get them. And in this book, I've got several already. One of them is happening in the very far north. So I'm really excited about that. Yeah.
Your website is fantastic, janetmatthews.ca.
Yeah.
What is on the website? And because it's a great resource when you're going through this process.
Well, janetmatthews.ca is my personal website, and there is an announcement on the page about this new book. If you click on the link, it'll take you to the other website, which is CanadianSoul.com, which is all about the books. And on that website, you're going to find writer's guidelines, what is and what is not a chicken soup story. Please read them if you want to do this. And 3 sample stories that will show you how they're constructed. And once you've written your story, you click on the link that says submit your story, and it will take you through to the main Chicken Soup for the Soul website in the States, and all the stories have to be submitted through that portal.
By the end of May, we are
That's
looking
it.
for submissions. Janet, a pleasure to have you back on the show.
Thank you so much, Jacqueline. It was a pleasure to be here. Thanks for calling me.
Hey, happy to have you back. Don't forget, guys, you can go to the website and submissions. Please submit any of your touching memories that really celebrate what it means to be about Canadian. Tell your friends, too. We'll be right back.